So I don't think you guys can see, but I'm currently sitting in front of a whole game of Near and Far by Red Raven Games, just fully set out here because Francis and I just finished up a live stream over on Twitch, which if you guys do not know, we do live stream over on Twitch. It's just the Board Game Garden. I always have it linked down below. But we did a live stream today with the TLN group, which is Tabletop Live Network, and we did it for a great cause. We did it working with Extra Life for a charity, raising money for Children's Miracle Network, and it was so much fun. But it's kind of funny that like I have this full-on setup of Near and Far in front of me, and you guys can't see anything. Hey friends, it is Jenna, what is up, and welcome back to the Board Game Garden. Today we are doing another Board Game 101 video, and we are doing another, I guess, list of games in a particular mechanism category. We did one for worker placement not too long ago. I will have that linked up here if you guys want to go check that out. But we did that. We talked a little bit about what worker placement is if you are new to the hobby, and then we went into doing a list of my top 10 favorite worker placement games, but that is not what today is. Today is tile placement, which I am very, very excited. Tile placement is probably, you know, my number one or number two favorite mechanism in a board game. And if you are new to the board game hobby, I guess the first thing that we should start with is that, you know, what is a board game mechanism or mechanic? Basically, when you are talking about a board game mechanism, it is how the board game plays. So what you are doing in the board game in order to, you know, gain points or gain money to win the game. So tile placement is basically, you know, placing tiles. It's pretty straightforward. It's either polyomino tiles, which are like the Tetris shaped tiles that you are placing in certain arrangements, or it could just be tiles that you are placing to make a board that you are walking on. There's a bunch of different tile placement games, and there are a bunch of different variations of it. So hopefully with my top 10 that I have beside me here, I can kind of give you guys a good look at a bunch of different tile placement variations. But yes, basically tile placement is just, you know, any game that contains tiles that you're picking up and then placing in a certain way. So yes, without further ado, let's get into my top 10 favorite tile placement games. These are in order, which typically I don't put my games in order of like what I like least to most, but with these like mechanism lists, I really do like to put them in order. It's very difficult for me to choose, but I've finally decided on top 10. I do have other games in my collection that are tile placement, but these are my top 10. And if you guys are interested in seeing them, then just keep on watching and let's get into this list, shall we? All right, so starting off with number 10, this is still one of my favorite tile placement games. Like I told you guys, I have a lot of tile placement games in my collection, but these are my top 10. So whatever is in this collection, all of these games are absolutely fantastic. This is my number 10, which is Galaxy Trucker by CGE. This is a fantastic, fantastic tile placement game. Tile placement is kind of like half of the game, and then the other half is more of just card flipping and I guess like a journey, if you will. But Galaxy Trucker is my number 10, and I love this game so much. I will say that they do have a more updated version. This is, I think, like the edition 1, but they recently came out with a new printing of it. I will say I personally prefer the graphics in this edition rather than the newer one. The newer one is a little bit more cartoony. Not the hugest fan of the art, but honestly, it doesn't even matter. The game is great. Basically, on your turn, or actually it's simultaneous, so everyone is doing it at the same time, but you are picking from a pile of tiles in the middle. It is real time, so everyone at the same time is reaching for this pile of tiles in the middle in order to build your spaceship to then go on a outer space journey. And you're trying to place your tiles in certain ways to give your spaceship different things that you will need throughout your journey. And the way that tiles connect is very important because there are pipes that you can only connect to certain ones. So you're trying to connect things, trying to bring as much into your spaceship as possible in order to have a successful journey. And then the second part of this game, you have cards that are being flipped that then show you what you are, running into and what is happening on your journey through space. So you could run into space pirates. There are also cards that allow you to stop at different planets to gain some resources that will get you points, and that is how you win. So that one's a great card to get. And there's just a bunch of different things that will happen throughout the journey. And, sometimes you will get a meteor shower that will then hit your spaceship and make things fall off. It is the funniest game. It's definitely a game that you can't take too seriously because, one way or another, your spaceship will most likely, lose some pieces, and it is very funny to see your opponent's ship get obliterated. So yes, that is my number 10. That is Galaxy Trucker. Moving on to my number 9, I believe this is the only cooperative tile placement game that I have on the list. And this is one that we got in our collection pretty long ago, and that is Subterra. This is such a fun game and such a thematic game. Basically, it is cooperative, so you're all working together, and the story of the game is that you have gone into these caves and you are trying to find the exit before you die or before your flashlights run out. So there are a bunch of different things that can happen. This is one of the tile placement games where the tiles are actually making up the board that you're walking on. So it's kind of representing you exploring the caves that you're in. So on your turn, you will be flipping over a tile if you do want to explore, and then possibly moving on to that space. Everyone has a certain amount of moves that they can do, and those different moves can be, explore, move, heal. There's a bunch of different things, and it is just so much fun. We always put on some spooky music, lower the lights a little bit, and try to work together to escape the caves and avoid monsters and poisonous gas and a bunch of different things. It is a really fun one if you can get your hands on it. Unfortunately, right now it is pretty difficult to find. I believe Trey Parker did a top 10 on Dice Tower, and this was one of his top 10 games, so it's pretty difficult to find. And I believe they are working on a second printing of Subterra, and I believe I saw that it was pre-order right now. So if you can find a pre-order for the new printing of it, I definitely recommend either picking it up or looking into it to see if you want to pick it up. But it is a great cooperative tile placement game. So that is Subterra, my number 9. Next up, we have my number 8. This is a lighter game. If you are new to the hobby, I definitely recommend this as one of your first tile placement games. This is Barren Park. It is published by Lookout Games. I don't know if Lookout Games, also it's a little bit dusty on top, so I will say we haven't played Barren Park in a while, but I really want to get it back to the table because it is such a fun, lightweight tile placement game that we've had in our collection for a while, but it is published by Lookout Games, and it is a fun little game where you are creating your own bear park, and you have your starter board, and whatever you pick up a tile, and whatever your tile covers up on your board, so there's going to be a bunch of different icons. Those are the tiles that you can then pick up to place on your next turn. So you are just picking up tiles, placing them, getting more tiles for where you placed that tile in order to place them on your next turn and gain points in different ways. Again, it's a very light one, but so much fun. Absolutely love it. There is a expansion for this, which I believe is I forget what it's called. Bad News Bears, I believe, that adds something. I think it's a monorail or something like that, and a lot of people say that it is a great expansion, so I do want to look into possibly grabbing that. But yes, Barren Park is a great one. I definitely recommend it if you are playing with new players, or if you are a new player to the hobby. Definitely recommend checking Barren Park out. It is so much fun. So that is my number 8. Moving on to my number 7, like Barren Park, this one is another great introduction game, one for people getting into the hobby or introducing to people in your life that are new to the hobby as well, and that is the Whatnot cabinet. This is published by Pencil First Games, and it is such a fantastic little puzzle. I love this game so much. It's easy to get to the table, it's easy to teach, and you can also play this one solo, and I really enjoy the solo in this one. So basically you have a little cabinet and you are trying to collect different curiosities or objects that you can put in your cabinet, and you're trying to get the columns and the rows in different formations to gain points. You want all of one color or all different colors, and then there are different public objectives that you're trying to get, and the way of determining when you go, the player order, it is determined by what action you choose to do. So if you choose to do one of the better actions, you're going to be going a little bit later in your next turn. So if you're wanting to be, earlier in the turn order, you are wanting to try to get one of the not as good actions, but if you do want one of the better actions, you're kind of forfeiting your ability to go sooner in the next round, if that makes sense. So anyways, I absolutely love the Whatnot cabinet. The art is adorable. Just the overall vibe of this game makes me so happy, and it's definitely turning into like a comfort game for me. I love just taking this one out and playing it solo one evening with a cup of tea. It is just fantastic. So that is my number 7. That is the Whatnot cabinet. My number 6, I'm gonna say right now, was in my top 10 for worker placement games as well, but it includes 2 of my favorite mechanisms, worker placement and tile placement. I think there's a few in this pile in like the top 5, so you guys can tell that those 2 in combination are just so good to me. But this game that I'm talking about is the wonderful and adorable Honey Buzz. This is published by Elf Creek Games, and it is such a good game. I keep on saying that. I definitely need to come up with new things to say in my videos, because I always find myself saying the same things. But Honey Buzz is a fantastic game where you are a colony of bees and you are trying to produce honey in order to fulfill orders, and on your turn you are using the worker placement mechanism to place your worker bees on worker placement spots, and those spots allow you to pick up certain tiles, and you are placing those tiles into your hive, and when you place a full completed cell, I believe it is called that, but once you place a bunch of different hexagons that make a full circle, you are able to do all of those actions in that circle of tiles. So you're trying to create these cells in order to do actions like producing and getting money and fulfilling orders and doing a bunch of different things, gaining more workers to be able to get more tiles. There's a bunch of different actions that you can do in the game, and I just love the combination of the worker placement with the worker bees, and then gaining those tiles, and then activating those actions in your hive. So yes, that is everything for Honey Buzz. Moving into my top 5. These are all games that I absolutely adore. The first one is one of my comfort games and one that I always love to chat about here on the channel because it is such a good game and I feel like it doesn't get enough love. This is Miyabi. It is published by Haba, and this is a layering tile placement game, which I absolutely love. You are drafting tiles from the middle that are in a polyomino shape, so there are different Tetris style shapes that you are drafting and then placing on your board in different ways, and you are allowed to layer tiles on top of one another in order to gain more points because it is multiplying by how many layers. So if you are placing a tile that's going to be worth 3 points on the 3rd level, it is 3 times 3, so you're getting 9 points for that tile. So you're trying to create this beautiful Zen garden, I like to call it, with a bunch of different items like bushes and rocks and koi ponds, and it's just such a wonderful and relaxing game. So that is Miyabi, my number 5. Definitely go give this game some love. It definitely needs to be in more people's collections because it is such a wonderful little game. The only thing that would make it better would be if it had a solo variant, which if you guys know, if anyone has made a solo variant for Miyabi, please let me know, because I would love that. Moving on to number 4. This is actually a very new game to our collection, and I've only played this game twice, which is pretty crazy and says a lot about the game, but those 2 plays that I had, I enjoyed this game so much. That is, dun 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 dun, 10 Penny Parks. Oh, this is such a fun game. This is published by Thunderworks Games, and it is a game where you are building out your amusement park. And again, this one combines 2 of my favorite mechanisms, which is worker placement and tile placement. And you are placing your workers to buy different attractions to put into your park. And those attractions are represented as polyomino tiles that you are placing on your board that's like a grid, and you can place your attractions in different ways. You have trees on your board that you can then go to the arborist and get them removed so that you can fit more tiles, and you can do advertisements in order to gain money and points from your attractions. It is right now my favorite like amusement park themed game. Yeah, and like the worker placement and the tile placement together is just chef's kiss. So yes, that is 10 Penny Parks. My number 3, I just realized, is another new game that I've only played like 3 times. And I will say right now that I have only played this solo. And that really shows how much I enjoy it. I do really want to play this multiplayer, but it is a very well-known game, and that is Cascadia. I do actually have Calico as well, which is also published by AEG and Flat Out Games, but I really do prefer Cascadia. I actually kind of want to play this game again tonight. Maybe I will. We actually might be getting together with Francis's parents, so I might be able to play this multiplayer tonight. Even if we don't, I might just play it solo. Cascadia is a tile placement and tile drafting game where there are hexagon tiles and then underneath are animal tokens, and you are drafting a set of a hexagon tile and a animal token, and you are placing them into your, I guess, habitat, your Cascadia, and you are trying to attach different habitats, but at the same time laying animal tokens to gain points from different public objectives. Each animal scores in a different way, and you're also scoring for your habitats, so grassland and forests and deserts and rivers and mountains and all of those things. You're gaining points for groups of those, and then you're also gaining points for whatever that specific animal wants. So for example, elks might want to be in a straight line, and then the birds, the eagles or the hawks, I forget what they are, but they might want to be just by themselves alone without any other birds around them. So you're trying to place your animal tokens and build up your habitats in different ways, and it is just such a fun game. There are a bunch of different scoring objectives that you can change up and make the game feel fresh. So that is Cascadia. It just recently won the Spiel des Jahres. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's definitely deserving of that reward because it is such a good game and it's very easy to get to the table, and I have not taught it to anyone yet, but I'm assuming it's going to be very easy to get to the table and teach. So that is my number 3, that is Cascadia. Moving into my number 2 and my number 1, I will say before I show you guys number 2, both of these are bigger games. They're ones that take a little bit longer to play than the other ones that I have showed you guys today, but both of them I would say are classics and absolutely fantastic games. I believe both of these are in the BGG or Board Game Geek Top 100, but I definitely think that both of these games deserve those rankings, and they are just ones that are tried and true. We've had them in our collection for a very long time, and they're ones that I am always down to play because they are so much fun. But number 2 is Castles of Burgundy. We do have the slightly more updated printing of Castles of Burgundy. I believe this was for their anniversary, correct me if I'm wrong, but they have recently just put up a Kickstarter. I believe it's over already, but they did a Kickstarter for an even more deluxeified version of Castles of Burgundy just recently, which looked amazing, but we have this one and I held myself back. But Castles of Burgundy, if you've never heard of it, basically on your turn you are rolling die and then using those die numbers to either draft a tile from the middle, or you are using that number to place one of the tiles that you've already drafted into your duchy. And there are different dice numbers based on where you are placing it. So there could be a spot that has a 2 and you're going to be using a 2 die in order to place one of your tiles on that 2 spot in your duchy. So it's very, very fun. You're trying to place your tiles in certain places to gain points in different ways, and you're trying to fill up the certain sections of your duchy before anyone else to gain the most points. And it is a very fun classic game. If you want to learn more about how the game plays, I definitely recommend. Just overall, if you guys are looking for any more information on all of the games that I ever talk about, definitely recommend going and checking out the Board Game Geek page on each of them. I do also want to mention that this game is not too incredibly difficult and it's not too hard to teach people. This is one that we've actually played with Francis's parents, and you know, typically they're not like super into board games, so we're typically playing pretty, you know, light games, some like light to medium games, and this is one of them that they were able to play and really, really enjoyed. So yes, that is Castles of Burgundy. Such a fantastic game, and that is my number 2. Okay friends, so we have finally made it to my number 1 tile placement game. I am holding it right now. It is a very chonky boy, but I will say that this was in my top 10 worker placement games as well. I believe it was my number 3 or my number 2 worker placement game, and you guys will be able to tell that I really enjoy this game, and so does Francis, and I think that's why I enjoy it a lot, is because Francis is always down to play it. Our friends Tom and Asha always love to play this one as well, and that is Caverna. This is a big chonky box, but Caverna is published by Lookout Games and it is designed by Uwe Rosenberg. This is our only Uwe Rosenberg game, I believe. There might be like a small game that we have by Uwe, but this is such a fantastic game where you have your own little homestead and you are dwarves that are trying to build out your farm. You're trying to grow crops. You're raising your little farm animals and building out your dwelling for your little family. It's the cutest game and the cutest theme, but at the same time, it is very strategic. It's very crunchy. Love the word crunchy, y'all. And it is just such a fantastic game that I'm always down to play. Love it so, so much. I will say that I would probably put this lower for getting it to the table. That's the only thing with Caverna. It is a little bit more difficult to get to the table. If we were talking about games that are easy to get to the table and ones that I play the most often, I definitely think this list would be in a different order, but for ones that when we do get it to the table I enjoy the most, Caverna is definitely at the top, and it is such a fun game. And yes, we are wanting to try A Feast for Odin as well. That is another tile placement game by the wonderful Uwe Rosenberg. I believe that Uwe does a lot of tile placement games. He also has New York Zoo, he also has Patchwork, and I believe a lot of his other big games like this kind of incorporate tile placement in a way, in different ways. So I do want to try a lot more of Uwe's games. Huge fan of him and huge fan of Caverna, and that is why it is my number 1. So those were my top 10 favorite tile placement games. Those are ones that are my favorite currently. I will say that my favorites very often change, but those are the ones that we own and we love currently and ones that we have played. But I do have a little list of ones that I do want to potentially try in the future and add to our collection in the future. All of these are tile placement games, and I will say the first one on the list is Ark Nova. That is one that has tile placement that we do want to play, and we do have it on the way. We pre-ordered it, but it has not yet shipped yet. We're currently waiting for Obsession to also arrive in order for both of them to ship at the same time, because Francis ordered both of them. But yes, first one is Ark Nova. The second one is one that we own. We just have not played it yet, and that is Isle of Cats. That is one that I feel like will most likely be on my top 10 list once I do get that one to the table, because I really, really enjoy the polyomino. There is a solo variant, which I am very excited to try out, and there's also some card drafting and stuff like that, which makes me very excited. So those are the first two. I mentioned A Feast for Odin. We really enjoy Uwe Rosenberg, so that is one that we really want to try. My City is a tile placing polyomino game, but it's also a campaign, which really intrigues me. So My City, we also have Project L, which I've heard a lot of good things about. The Magnificent, which looks like a really, really cool game that combines dice worker placement or dice manipulation in a way, as well as the polyomino tiles, which I think is a really cool combination. We also have Tang Garden, which looks stunning. New York Zoo is another Uwe game that I would love to try. Gartenbau is a 25th century game about flowers, and it's another like layering tile game, very much like Miyabi, and it's one that is at the top of my wish list. I can't wait to pick that one up. Also, Planet Unknown is one that I've heard a lot of good things about. Paris, La Cité de la Lumière. It's a 2-player tile placement game. Looks like a lot of fun. Dinosaur World has always been on my wish list. Botnik is one that looks really cool. It's like a smaller tile placement game. King Domino Origins. I will say the original King Domino, we don't own it, but that's like an honorable mention because I really enjoy King Domino. I've played it at a friend's house before, and we've also played it on BGA. Really enjoyed that one, but I've heard a lot of good things about King Domino Origins. There's also Juicy Fruits that looks very cute, as well as Land vs. Sea, which is a 2-player head-to-head tile placement game. Those are all the ones that I just wanted to mention here at the end, just listing off some tile placement games that I am interested in. Definitely let me know down in the comments if there's any other tile placement games, whether it is tile placement building out a map, which, speaking of, Clank Catacombs is another tile placement game where you are flipping over to build a map. Looks absolutely amazing. That's another one that I should put on the list. But yeah, any polyomino, any tile placement that are building out a map, definitely let me know down in the comments any that you guys think I would like. Thank you so much for joining today. I love you guys so, so much. Remember, you are somebody's reason to smile, and I will see you in the next board game video. Bye, friends.